You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
Across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
On a Monday morning, December 15th, 8:06 the time. Nice to have you back here up north. All across the Civic Media Radio Network, John and Gordy will be joining us in just a moment. First, if you missed it earlier, the sad announcement that this is our last week of shows in the early morning. Our final live show will be on Friday, followed by some highlight shows from 2025 and then a clean slate of programming here at Civic Media. We have loved this partnership over the past 3 years, but my duties at Up North News are expanding, and we'll keep you up to date on what that all will include coming up in the new year. But again, I really appreciate the opportunity from the Civic Media folks to come here and put together a morning show. But it's become quite clear moving forward that what the people want is 24 hours of John and Gordy. So I'm here to announce John and Gordy will be living at the Civic Media headquarters and will be just everywhere all the time. Morning, guys. How are you?
That's right. Well, good.
It's almost like that already.
They're laughing like they didn't get the memo, Parker. I don't know. You saw it, right?
I saw it. I don't know why they're laughing. They know that they're on air 24/7 starting on Monday.
That's great. Yeah, I can say it. Guys, how was your weekend?
Pat, well, we're doing all right, but Pat, we're going to miss you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've really loved this. I've really enjoyed it. I am a radio rat from the beginning. That's what I initially wanted to do in life. The TV thing was a complete accident, and then there was that midlife crisis going into politics. But
yes,
I'd always wanted to come back to radio, and it has been just a wonderful thing. There'll be some other adventures in 2026, I suppose. But that Jane Matnair kid, she's kind of making retirement look interesting. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see what comes down after that. And everybody gave her such a nice send off. I love that about this business is that a lot of times people don't get to say goodbye and leave on their own terms. And so when you got something like that, it was a nice development, and we wish her all the luck in the world and all the happiness. I didn't want to step on her toes, which is why I put this off until Monday. But one more week of this, and thank you all for the kind words and for the experience. It's been great.
Well, it'd be hard to imagine me trying to retire. It just doesn't work. I just keep looking up more stories and trying to find more information out. I can't stop working. That's the problem.
Yeah, I've talked to people like that. Obviously, retirement's kind of been on our minds now that we're both in our early 60s. And initially, we were the kind of people that said, "Why would you ever retire if you're liking what you do?" And on it goes. And now I'm at the point where people go, "Pat, you could never retire. You could never leave news and politics." And I'm like, have you not looked at the world lately? when the time comes, whenever that is, I said I am going to throw my smartphone into the ocean because I'll be on a beach at the time. I will open up a flip phone so that I never have to look at news headlines again, and order me another pina colada. That might be a bit of a stretch, but I am going to try so hard not to be the information junkie that I've been for 40 plus years. But I get it, John. It's a hard habit to break.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do it.
Well, you're moving on to a different phase, though. You're still going to stay active in the news business.
I'll still be doing it at Up North News. I'm just saying at some point that too will end. And, could I really do what Jane is doing starting today? And that is just actually relaxing and life without a whole bunch of news and politics and media. And I think whenever that time comes, I think I'll be able to do it. But I have met I've met people of all stripes, the ones who have been like, "Oh, retirement's the best thing. You got to do it right away." And the others who are now, they've tried once or twice to retire and have said, "Nope, not my thing. Not my thing. I got to be busy all the time."
Yeah.
And that's
well,
fine.
that's how I felt. I know Gordy felt the
and
same
that you may as
way.
well get a paycheck while you're doing it. That's the thing,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
well, we talked about, radio is just fun to do. And when you
Yes.
have fun doing it, why would you give it up, right? I mean, that's the whole point.
You're not doing it for the money. I know that much.
We all know that.
Well, yes, that's true.
But it is. It's very enjoyable. But I know that, just retirement itself, the people that I've talked to, and I mean, these are doctors who, I'd see at clinic parties with my wife, and they'd be saying, the toughest thing about retirement is that even if you have saved enough, if you've saved what you thought you wanted to save for retirement, there's just something psychological about no longer having money coming in, that it's all about money going out. And that is very hard for some people. It's why they can't retire. It's just not, it's not in their wheelhouse to not be making an income. We've been so trained in this economy, like, oh, you always got to be making money. God forbid you relax for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
But it's
Well,
true.
are you still getting benefits from being a politician?
As a matter of fact, now I did not get like vested in the state retirement plan because you have to be there for 10 years and I was there for 4, but you still get like this little piece of a pension, so that next year when I turn 62, I will actually get something like it's like $70 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
That ain't nothing.
No, no.
And
Pocket change,
but it brings up that whole notion of pensions versus what we got now with the 401ks and the IRAs and everything else. I mean, you used to have that comfort or that security of knowing that there was a pension waiting for you, and now it's like, I hope Wall Street does well today, because I've known retirees who Wall Street has a bad day and next thing I know I see him at the pull tab machine, just trying to, and I don't want to have to think about Wall Street every day of my retirement.
Right.
That's the problem with 401ks. You have to kind of invest in it and then see what happens afterwards. And
you're a professional, like day trader, whether you like it or not.
Whether
That's
you
just
like it or not.
not my speed. You guys were talking today about Christmas Carol and Scrooges and things like that.
Yeah. The different versions that are out there and which are people's favorites.
Exactly.
Yeah. That kind of thing.
It kind of counteract all the bad news that happened over the weekend. We just wanted
to concentrating on Scrooge was what you couldn't talk about Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life, or it's
Wonderful Life did come up.
We touched on that, but it's so amazing because the Elster Sims movie of A Christmas Carol, which is the ultimate classic, they never show it anymore. But somebody just mentioned, texted us and said it's on Tubi. So if you do want to watch that particular movie,
classic,
it was unavailable for so many years. And and who is it that played John Steed in the Avengers way back when?
Oh boy.
That actor played a role in the Elster Sims movie, and he would introduce it in an anniversary redone version, not redone, but remastered version of it.
Oh, sure.
And I always remember I have that version of it.
Oh,
so,
you do? Okay.
Yeah. And then I have actually a letterbox version and a regular movie size version and a digitized version. I have collected as much of that movie as I could possibly collect.
You're like the Taylor Swift business model. I'm going to make you buy the same song 4 different times because I'm just going to package it all these different ways. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm showing, what I'm not exactly high class, shall we say. Muppet Christmas Carol. That's the classic for me because it was Michael Caine playing Scrooge, and Michael Caine said he would only take the role if he could play it completely straight. He never camps it up. He never gets, hams it up with the Muppets, or he doesn't acknowledge that they are Muppets at all. He plays it completely straight, and he's amazing in the movie. So if you haven't seen Muppet Christmas Carol, there you go.
It is surprising. I did watch that and I thought, wow, this is actually a good version of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is good.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can do campy versions of it and still have some fun with it, but it was just a nice way that you could still have the Muppet humor, but just not with the Scrooge character, and that's very foundational. So I'm sure your listeners had a lot of good thoughts on the versions of. There's so many versions of it out there, and so many people who've played Scrooge over the years.
I made a plea on the air a couple of days ago in regards to getting a new movie made, but with all unknown actors, so we just start fresh. And
yes.
Wouldn't it be better with unknown actors to do
Can
this?
they do that anymore in Hollywood? I don't think you're allowed to make a movie with just all unknowns.
Well, they should. It's one of those kind of movies. There is a movie way back in 1935. I watched all the different versions of it, but this one is a little darker than most of the movies that were made of A Christmas Carol and Scrooge, and that is where Cratchit goes up to the bedroom upstairs where Tiny Tim is laying. Because they didn't have funeral homes and they didn't have all the process that we're so familiar with. And I forgot that. I forgot that that's how they did it in the old days. So it's dark. It's very and it's incredibly sad. So.
It really is. And yet, the lesson is there. It's still as much a morality play as ever about, greed and the difference between, that and charity, having compassion for not just your fellow man, but for your employees and things like that. So it makes it very enjoyable. And I'm glad I've been reminded of a classic like that, because otherwise we will just sit here and talk about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation over and over again. That's a classic comedy, but it's never going to be a classic Christmas tale, shall we say? I don't know.
Right.
You guys have other things that you completely binge out on?
Elf is really made into a classic now. For some reason, Will Ferrell just nailed it on that movie.
Yes. So, yeah. And Peter Dinklage is one of the characters in there. I believe he did that one right before Game of Thrones, but I could be wrong. But
that sounds right.
When you really started noticing him and a couple of the other roles that he did, and what a great actor he is as well. And then of course you've got now the late great James Caan playing a role that you're going, wait, this is the guy from The Godfather, but he's playing just a wonderful role there. I hate to end on a melancholy note, but when we mention Rob Reiner, we're going to do it in appreciation, because obviously this is a tragic situation, but we can't not tip our cap to him, even though this was a terrible circumstance. But his legacy will be the guy that invented the mockumentary with This Is Spinal Tap.
Yeah. Right.
Princess Bride, Stand By Me, and then A Few Good Men. And you're going, wait, this is Rob Reiner? He's doing, and then he does Harry Met Sally after that, and Misery after that. I mean, nobody knew Meathead had it in him when he started directing these movies.
Yeah. He was a fantastic talent, and it's just amazing because he put so much into this Spinal Tap movie. That it just this is such a sad thing to see happening.
And he was working on a sequel to it as well. And he talked, I saw a clip of him talking about being the son of Carl Reiner, just a TV pioneer. And it just makes you work that much harder that you don't, he says your name gets you in the door, but you got to prove yourself after that.
Boy, he sure did, didn't he?
And, well, he did. Your dad creates the Dick Van Dyke Show. Dick Van Dyke turned 100 on Saturday.
Right. Yeah, that was a big monumental moment, wasn't it? And he's got books, How to Live to Be 100.
And he
we should read those.
Yes, he actually made it there. John and Gordy, you can hear them afternoons here across the Civic Media Radio Network, mornings on the Madison station, and soon everywhere. John and Gordy, thanks, guys.
We're going to miss talking to you, Pat.
Thank you. Me as well. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great day. All right, we'll continue things here and soon be talking to John Henkus from WisconsinEye about that network going dark today. I'm Pat Kreitlow from Up North News. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
$855-75-CIVIC is our phone number, 855-752-4842. You can call it, you can text it, You can use the Civic Media app to call the show, text the show, leave us a voice note, or drop into the comment sections on Facebook or YouTube, either for Civic Media or for Up North News. And the comment sections went and got busy today on one of the Facebook sites, at least, because I dared to mention that on Saturday night, the new right-wing regime at CBS decided to devote a couple of hours of some primetime time on Saturday, not to Dick Van Dyke, their longtime star who turned 100 years old, but to Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk. And it was a town hall. CBS's social media was taken over by dozens of social media posts about Erica Kirk and about Charlie Kirk. And I mean, I didn't know how else to put it on social media except to say I've seen enough. We can call it time of death for CBS News right now in deciding to turn things over to celebrate someone who was as divided as he was, as opposed to somebody who, like a Dick Van Dyke, who brought us joy and comedy, or do neither one. But that was a conscious decision on their part at CBS News. It seems like there's always an issue with folks on the far right and the media, that if they hear something they don't like, it must be a conspiracy against them, even if true. For example, WisconsinEye, which we're going to get into next. Alicia pops up on YouTube and says, my state representative said, in terms of giving state funding to WisconsinEye, they're worried about WisconsinEye turning into state-run media. Sure. WisconsinEye provides an unfiltered, unvarnished view of state government. There are interview shows and talk shows on there with journalists who are so above board and so beyond any kind of suspicion of bias. These are great reporters and hosts who ask fact-based questions and insist on fact-based answers. And it's everything that we could want from a TV channel covering our elected officials. And it's something that we frankly deserve to have. But we don't have that because WisconsinEye was dependent upon philanthropic donations more so than state funding. So John Hankus will be along in 10 minutes and we will talk much more about that. We had such a great conversation a little less than an hour ago with former Congressman Reed Ribble about health care. And Reed Ribble was a Republican congressman from Northeast Wisconsin's 8th District for 6 years and got a reputation as, one of those Republicans who genuinely wanted to find answers to the things that are troubling his constituents, healthcare certainly among them. And again, made the case that there are all kinds of ways that you can have an honest debate about healthcare. And then you have to work toward a solution. The one wrong approach is to do nothing or to savage the people who are trying to solve this healthcare conundrum in this country and then not putting up any real alternative of your own. Now, Republicans in Congress today have put up something, health savings accounts, and I'll even put $1,000 into it. And then you put all of your extra money into this health savings account, and that will enable you to, find the right health insurance and, make the deductibles and everything else. And if it sounds too good to be true, it's because it is. And we knew that long before this debate that created the Affordable Care Act. And yet Congressman Scott Fitzgerald recently had a column in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel touting the benefits of health savings accounts and health reimbursement accounts and things like that. And I was taking note of a response, a letter to the editor in the Journal-Sentinel by a Dr. John Perryman of Williams Bay. And here's part of his letter. Scott Fitzgerald's recent column discussing how Republicans are, quote, solving the problems created by Obamacare, end quote, was clear evidence of how little he and the GOP understand the realities of healthcare and how tone deaf they are to the needs of Americans. While HSAs offer many tax advantages, this approach ignores the reality that tens of millions of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. and they would be unable to pay the high deductible, let alone set aside funds to an HSA. These are not true solutions. It is tinkering around the edges, he writes. The base problem is that health insurers are corporations, and as such, their primary goal is profit maximization. Among their strategies for this is making the patient pay more and creating barriers to coverage with the goal of paying fewer claims. This is the fundamental problem. And that's the letter to the editor from Dr. John Perryman of Williams Bay about Congressman Scott Fitzgerald's column. Now, Scott Fitzgerald served, I believe, in the National Guard. He has been a state senator, and he is now a member of Congress. When it comes to health care, he's good. He will not ever have an issue affording health care. And that's part of the point that I think many people are making, is that there are far too many people making a government salary, getting really great health insurance, and yet they appear to be moving heaven and earth to try to keep ordinary Americans from being able to afford health insurance. We have two problems with health care in this country: underutilization and overutilization. And they're both issues. Republicans only want to talk about the overutilization, that, oh, people are going to get 1 million tests and they're going to go see the doctor if their finger gets a scratch on it and it's going to drive up costs. Yeah, you have to work for ways to have reasonable co-pays that guard against overutilization. It's true. But you're lost if you don't first deal with the underutilization, all of the people who get sick but don't go get care until it's too late, until it's too expensive, because they don't have health insurance coverage. Solve the health insurance affordable coverage problem, and you've taken a big step. But we've got too many politicians who have no interest in doing that whatsoever. We'll talk to John Hankus from WisconsinEye coming up next. I'm Pat Kreitlow from Up North News. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Remember to stay up to date on what we're doing at Up North News. Head over to upnorthnewswi.com, click subscribe in the top banner, and be a subscriber to our weekday newsletters and our Sunday morning politics newsletter as well. Today's edition from Ellie Bordeaux has the Badger State Buzz calendar of events that are going on this week. Also an article on ice dams and how to prevent damage to your home as a result. Our Sunday morning newsletter has a question of the week, and this week's question deals with how to pay for education in Wisconsin. Right now, so much of our public school funding is reliant upon local property taxes. Is that the right way to fund education? Does that give a degree of local control, or should this be a case where state funding from a more progressive income tax is what funds our schools? A lot of great answers have come in already. And to see our question of the week first, well, that's where you head over to upnorthnewswi.com and click subscribe and be on board as a subscriber to one of our newsletters. All right, so we've talked about, how the state should fund schools. Let's talk about funding for coverage of our state government itself, because for a number of years now, well over a decade, WisconsinEye has been providing that unfiltered, unvarnished coverage of state government with live sessions of the Assembly and Senate, committee meetings, some live, some taped, some interview shows, presentations, panel shows, and that's all happening in a network that has gone dark as of today due to a lack of financial resources. And so WisconsinEye President and CEO John Hankus joins us now to talk more about what the network is facing. John, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Pat. Thank you. And hello to all your listeners.
No, thank you. We appreciate your time here. So the network went dark at midnight overnight, and there is a slide up on the screen now that explains the situation. How about if, in your own words, you explain what is it that has forced WisconsinEye to go dark right now?
Let me begin with a short story. So yesterday evening, I was lamenting the loss of the Packers. And Christian Watson and Micah Parsons, and 9:20 last night, the phone rings. And I'm thinking, you get a call at that time, not good. Well, It was former Governor Tommy Thompson. And Tommy said, "John, how are you doing?" And I said, "I'm fine, Governor." He said, "Is WisconsinEye going dark on Monday?" And I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "It's a sad day for Wisconsin, and it's a sad day for WisconsinEye. How can I help?" So behind the scenes, Pat, there are a number of individuals who believe strongly in the mission and work of WisconsinEye. And I believe we will find a resolution somewhere in the near term. We're not there yet. But what brought us to this point is the fact that WisconsinEye relies solely on charitable contributions. We're a 501c3 organization. And there has been support through the years, through private donors, through foundations, through business foundations. But since the pandemic, the environment for philanthropy nationwide has changed rather dramatically. There's an intense pressure and competition for charitable dollars. So take it back to the pandemic. And a lot of local community-based projects went into hibernation for good reason. There was just too much anxiety over the economy. Well, in the last 18 months or so, a lot of those projects have reemerged, as well as new projects. So whether you're talking Wausau, Racine, Madison, Milwaukee, there are multi-million-dollar charitable campaigns going on all around the state. On top of that, there continues to be skittishness over the economy. Then you throw into that mix record-breaking political fundraising, and oftentimes WisconsinEye gets put in that same bucket. But we do not advocate for candidates or causes or campaigns. We're that neutral ground. So we've got to fight our way through that fog and say, no, we're different. We have to distinguish ourselves as really the transparency and the access that citizens need. So it's just been a really tough environment. I'll give you some numbers. So in the last 18 months, WisconsinEye has made 52 well-qualified, well-developed donor requests. And those are of individuals, businesses, and formal foundation proposals. 52, totaling $9.2 million. And all of them have been declined. So you have to take a step back and say, well, this funding model is no longer sustainable. What do we need to do to keep this network alive moving forward?
Well, that's where people ask. That's where people ask, John. What is the state commitment from the time that it started until now? Through I forget how many state budgets that must be by now, but has that varied in terms of what each legislature has made for a state funding commitment to this 501c3?
No, there really has been no commitment from the state. The state has stepped in on a few occasions during our 18 years of service. Once was they participated with some funding to replace the cameras in the Capitol. That was about 5-6 years ago. During the pandemic, the administration provided a one-time grant to help get us through a dry season, if you will. And then most recently, they provided a $250,000 grant to help WisconsinEye. But over 18 years, there has been no annual support by the state for WisconsinEye. And that's been by design. I mean, very early, this network was created as an independent entity so that whatever party was in power would not manipulate, control, or to its advantage, schedule programming or coverages. So credit goes to the legislative body and the governors through the years for saying we want to do this independent of state control. We're at the point now where we provide them with a service. They recognize that. And so there is right now $9,750,000 in an account with WisconsinEye's name on it in a statutorily required dollar for dollar match. So in other words, if WisconsinEye were successful in raising endowment dollars incrementally along the way, the state would match those dollars. So we're competing against ourselves. We're trying to raise money to keep operations going month to month, to keep the lights on. At the same time, we've been trying to raise endowment dollars. And in this difficult environment, neither of those have proved successful. So right now, the conversation going on behind the scenes is, would the state consider doing one of several things? Either put that money into an endowment account managed by the state, where the dividends, the earnings, would go directly to WisconsinEye. Well, that's a good model. It may or may not achieve all of our annual budget, but certainly it would be the lion's share. The other consideration would be help us for a year, peel off $1 million from that matching requirement and set us on solid ground for the next year. And then we'll work a strategy to try to raise those other dollars. So the state has an opportunity to be part of the solution right now.
I would hope so, because, I mean, look, the endowment idea sounds intriguing for this reason. While it's admirable to set up something that, is immune from political control, to just provide money on a case-by-case, need based on whims is frankly no different than what your model is right now, which is, again, relying on the whims of philanthropic donors. It seems a heck of a way to ensure unfiltered coverage of state government is basically depending upon charitable giving to do that. So it certainly seems that there is a place for state funding that, like you said, is somehow made as independent as it could possibly be. You said there's talks behind the scenes. Do you feel like those talks can make progress so that WisconsinEye isn't off the air for too terribly long?
I believe so. And hats off goes to Assembly Speaker Robin Voss. He has been an advocate and supporter of WisconsinEye as long as he's been in the Speaker's office. He's a key part of that conversation. There's also been conversations with Democratic leadership, and I believe that there is support all the way around. It's now a matter of working out the details and figuring out what kind of timeline we're looking at. But let's be real about this. Even if those dollars were put into an endowment account and started earning interest tomorrow, it will take time to get us to the point where it's generating enough to keep us going operationally into the future. So there still has to be some bridge funding of some sort. So what's been really impressive to us and very encouraging is that when we first made the announcement of potentially shutting down for a period, online giving in small donor amounts, $5, $25, $100, has been incredibly impressive. Over $50,000 in small dollar gifts, which says to us that there is a broad viewing audience out there of citizens who really care about WisconsinEye being accessible. Where we need to make some success, Pat, is in those realms that use us all the time. And by that, I mean lobbyists and lobbyist interests, those principals who employ lobbyists, because, one of our key audiences are those very people who advocate for state outcomes.
Yeah, we're talking to John Hankus. He's the president and CEO of WisconsinEye at WisEye.org, WISEYE, WisEye.org. You can also make a donation that way. You can find the address on the website as well if you'd like to mail in a donation, or you can text WisEye to 44321. Again, text WisEye to 44321. So we're at the point now where you've had people like former Governor Tommy Thompson, saying, what can we do? Clearly the SOS has gone out, but basically you've led into my final question here, which is you really need that full range of donors. And we see that at Up North News as well. You need a couple of, high dollar donors, you need some mid-level, but you really succeed best with that grassroots support And there are all kinds of folks around the state that, dip into WisconsinEye here and there to make sure that their elected officials, are doing the things they say they're going to do. How do you feel about achieving a greater level of grassroots support moving forward?
Well, I think it's really important. Our social media communities have grown every year in the last 5 years. So we have more Facebook followers and Twitter followers than we ever thought possible a few years back. That grassroots support is really important. It helps us to meet our IRS requirements for donor solicitations as well. Sure. So the large gifts are really important.
But those small dollar ones, though, that are kind of the bread and butter, and they help attract some of that larger private money when they see that in there. John Hankus is the president and CEO of WisconsinEye. John, we wish you all the best. Thank you for taking some time to explain what is happening, and we hope to get an update again soon. Take care.
Will do. Thank you, Pat.
All right. Thank you very much. When we come back, we'll talk to Greg Bach, find out what's coming up next here along the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Find the latest news, information, and archives of all your favorite shows on the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us.
So the next couple of weeks here are going to be a little weird. You have our show that's ending at the end of this week, but then a couple of weeks of highlight shows that Parker has graciously been putting together, some of the best moments of 2025. And then we've got Jane Matnair, who has retired as of Friday, but Matnair on Air goes on for a little while here, which is why Greg Bach is sitting in the big chair and ready to take things over at 9 o'clock. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm doing quite well, I must say. Just getting ready for our first show. Jane watching over us, I would say.
Well, let's not make her celestial over here. But
hey, she is our angel. She is our angel, but she is an angel on earth. See what I did there?
I see that.
Okay.
Yes, very much. But it's still it's Matt and Air on air for today as we kind of make that transition. Matt and Airless Matt and Air on air for the moment.
Sans Matt and Air.
Is that a degree of wish casting that maybe after a week or two she's like, I don't like this retiring thing. I'm back.
We kept all the music in the files.
We kept the music.
We're good. We're good.
We haven't changed the name on the mailbox. We're good. Yeah. Come on back in, Jane.
You can still find us on Google.
I don't think that's going to happen. She was talking too much about the things that she wanted to start doing, and I think she gets to do all of the things that she wants.
Yeah. So she said it best that after nearly 45 years in radio, she is satisfied. She feels good with what she has done, and I'm really glad that we as Civic Media, all of us, were able to be her home before she decided to retire, because I feel like that gave her a good send-off, a good place to be, what she did. She made that very clear. So it was we're going to miss her, but you know what? We're going to hear from her from time to time. She said it herself. She's not going to let it, she's going to be in our emails and on our text lines and whatnot. So it'll be great.
We can't stay away,
No.
It'll be
exactly.
I mean, she and I have already talked about hosting like some kind of an alumni function for Civic Media, past and present. So we could.
Will there be tiny awards too? Tiny trophies like the.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that, but guess what? That just made the list. So there we go. So will you be doing will you have occasional co-hosts, or is this going to be a solo endeavor? You and the Calzone, of course.
Me and the Calzone. I mean, for right now, it's going to be just the two of us, but we've got Tucker, our great senior producer, helping out as always, putting everything together. We're going to have amazing guests. We're going to have some of the same familiar faces as our weekly guests coming by as well. And, we're going to be trying things out for the next few weeks. We're going to be seeing, new styles, new formats. We're going to hear from old, we'll still be doing our audio sorbet. We're still going to be keeping it, there's going to be a lightness to the second hour that we want to make sure people can relax a little bit. But I'm really looking forward to the guests we're going to be having on and the discussions that we're going to be taking part in for, like really big statewide issues that are really affecting all of us that we may not be aware of. And today we're kicking it right off, like right out the gate, 9:06. We're going to be talking to a gentleman about data centers. His name is Blaine Halverson. He's from a group called Stop the Menominee Data Center Group, and we're going to be talking about that because it is prevalent in Wisconsin. It's huge in America, and people are starting to wake up to what these data centers mean for their communities.
And they're not going to go away is my contention. And so let's figure out, how do you account for what is going to be an increase in computing, which happens because of AI? For example, over the weekend, Sherry said, "So what's this Chat GPT thing? Is it an app?" And I showed her the Chat GPT app on my phone.
Yeah.
And how is it different from Google? I'm like, well, this gives you actually plain English explanations, whereas Google just returns a bunch of hits from websites, And she's like, okay, that's cool. And pretty soon, like an hour or two later, I'm sitting here, she's over in the other room, and I hear her talking into her phone saying, "What's the difference between such and such and such and such?" I'm like, "What'd you do?" She's like, "I put GPT on my phone. It's great. It gives us all these." So right away, more data, more computers firing up. And as all the rest of us start doing more and more, we're going to have that need, and maybe try to do it without, getting rid of all of our drinking water in a given area.
Yeah, and that's the big thing too. I don't disagree with you. I feel that data centers there are over 4,000 in America. They're not closing down tomorrow. But it is about accountability, transparency, and listening to the people whose utility bills they will affect, and just the everyday life. Selling off acres of farmland to build these huge data centers, and what will they give back? That's what people want to know, and what will they take away?
Somebody put up a link to an article about, now this is Scandinavia, of course. I don't want to say Norway, but I could be wrong, where they're using these data centers now for heating purposes because they generate so much heat, and way up north there, they need the heat. Now, that's not going to do you much good in the summertime, but at least, again, they're thinking about, if we have to have these things, how can we make it work to our advantage? Yes. So it's a great first introduction to the topic that you'll have. So I think that sounds like fun. Did you have a good weekend?
I did have a good weekend. It was packed with a lot of nothing, which was great.
I love
Saturday,
that.
I tried to do as little as possible, and just kind of get myself in the right frame mind for taking over and doing the thing and trying new stuff with the show. Like I'm very excited. We're talking to a local toy store owner in Wausau, and we're going to be talking to a woman named Katie Goodwin, who's part of a group called Grocery Buddy. It's just a volunteer-powered, donor-powered organization that gets groceries to people, and it's very exciting. I'm very much looking forward to the discussions today, so I took some time to rest.
As well you should, because, it gets real from here. Greg Bach, listen to him, Matt and Air on Air, starting just after the 9 o'clock news. All right, Greg, good luck. Break a leg.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right, we'll talk to you a little later. Parker, thank you so much as well. My thanks to today's guests, former Congressman Reed Ribble, John Hankus from WisconsinEye, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, Selena Heller, we had Jimmy Koska, John and Gordy, and all of you for being here today. I'm Pat Kreitlow from Up North News, part of Courier Newsroom, a pro-democracy news network. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll have our final Tuesday show coming up tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. here up north.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.